Welcome back to Morning Trade Live. We want to focus on what the consumer should be thinking about as the market is at records. Maybe you want to diversify your portfolio a little bit. Let's see what's coming up on Rebecca Walser's to-do list here, President, Walser Wealth Management. Thank you so much for being with us. So we've made it through the first half of the year. We have a record for the S&P, a record for NASDAQ and NVIDIA and many others. Some of your thoughts on now what?
I know. Well, the great news is consumer sentiment grew 16% month over month from May to June, and that's for year over year. And so basically that's awesome because we even had a positive up raise for 6 months. We're still about 18% off of December 2024 levels, so people are still thinking that inflation, tariffs, and those kinds of things, Nicole, could be a factor. But to see consumer sentiment come up over May and really be positive is great. And specifically, both personal finance and business is about 20% upside positive momentum that people are starting to think, okay, maybe things will be well. It's still a really mixed bag, though, because when you look at what Bank of America, LendingTree, and all of these things have said, we do see subprime car notes really going into the negative, like to the same levels of 2008, in some cases even greater than 2008, which is kind of indicative that, you know, we could be seeing a lot of people that just can't make ends meet as prices do rise. You know, the number of people that have about 3 jobs, 2 or 3 jobs, is around the same level that it was right at 2008, pre-global financial crisis. So that is indicative that things aren't that affordable, and so that if inflation does rear its ugly head, it could be problematic.
And car notes, the subprime car notes.
Yes.
So they're not able to make their car payment.
Yeah, people are.
And they have 2 or 3 jobs.
We have like a 5% delinquency rate there.
You're really digging into the weeds getting this stuff, but it shows there. We really see this. We talk about a K-shaped recovery, right?
Yes.
So the people who are on the socioeconomic brackets that are on the top are spending a little more, and those who are on the lower end are still struggling.
Exactly.
You know, the U.S. dollar is something that you follow really closely, and there's still a lot of talk that the administration's trying to push down the dollar a bit, that it could at least help in some ways, maybe with the deficit, but crypto is coming up, right? And you talked about 401ks, and should people have some crypto in the 401ks?
Yeah, this administration, and Nicole, as you know, has done a lot to really expand the depth and the breadth of investments available in the 401ks. It's not just your average, here's your 5 funds, auto-enroll and pick one. So obviously President Trump is talking about private equity into 401k possibilities, but signing today legislation into law, basically, that says that the 401k will be able to have crypto investments forthcoming. And so that's exciting, but it really also shows us that, okay, as we open up these investments to be more strategic, more, you know, alternative type of investments, just people just need to realize, since they don't usually have an advisor necessarily working with their 401k, because obviously the 401k administrators stay away from advice. They just administrate it in the polling. They're not advising. So they're not your advisor. And just remember that, you know, private equity, which is typically relegated to accredited investors, and crypto, this is your retirement dollar, so you probably need to do some risk profiling to make sure that you really aren't overexposing your portfolio to risk.
And what's interesting, so how do you get that into your 401? Is it like IBIT, or how do you have that exposure?
That's a great question. I don't think it's like you're not doing obviously cold storage wallet, because it's inside the 401k. So it seems to me that it's going to be democratized through ETFs or something like that. I mean, maybe a pure play of just Bitcoin. I don't know, but we'll see.
Right. Overall, when you talk about the market, most of the folks are still talking about it climbing higher, climbing the wall of worry, trillions of dollars in money market funds that have FOMO. Do you think the market climbs higher?
I mean, I think that a lot of analysts are looking at that money market and saying and assuming that it's going to go into equities. But what if instead it goes into private equity? What if instead it goes into, although it wouldn't go through the 401k, what if instead it goes into alts or to crypto directly and not through ETFs? In that case, I think that there might be an over skis again, saying, no, we have this runway, and then we have all this money sitting on the sidelines,
and that may not necessarily come in.
And also, when people don't forget, Nicole, when people think that things are going to go wonky, they pull back and they save, and they keep them cash dry for a reason, dry powder.
You know, you always have the global picture. You and I have had some great conversations in different places. We did a market drive. We've done market overtime. And you bring some global stories to us. What are some on your mind right now?
Well, we have a lot of consternation. We just had the Asian version of Davos just last month in June in China, and obviously that's bringing a lot of countries back into the BRICS bloc, really trying to get more and more countries into the BRICS bloc. But if you look at even just the Chinese Belt and Road initiatives, I equate that to an Eastern kind of IMF, because what they do is they go into countries and they say, we will give you Chinese yuan, but for infrastructure projects, but this infrastructure is strategic to us for our initiatives. Right. And so they're building out these 170 countries have funds from the Belt and Road Initiative and building infrastructure projects. So I think that we just need to consistently remember that we have competitors that are trying to devalue and derail the U.S. dollar.
And they're making their own currency. Right. When I've had some conversations, the feeling was that the BRIC nations' currency was so far off. Do you feel like it's so far off or not necessarily?
I think that with blockchain and crypto, it changes the game. I think that you could have said and you could have rested at peace at night that there's nothing to replace the dollar and there's nothing that's large enough, because the yuan clearly is not large enough. However, when you start talking about bi-directional trading and domestic currency that can be settled on a blockchain that is completely transparent, and if you need to settle up trade deficits or whatever, you maybe use gold or something that's a true hard asset, then you start to see that it's a lot faster than anyone is really giving a time frame to. And the devaluing of the dollar globally in Forex just keeps ticking down every single day.
Is there any stock? I mean, many times you've come on and given us stock picks and we check back, but those were for that time, not forever. Do you have any stocks lately that you like?
We still really see a big upswing for Eli Lilly, and it's really all about this Zepbound. So if Zepbound has got like a 20% efficacy on weight loss, not 20%, that's not right, but they're like a 20% level, whereas if you look at the kind of the Bible Ozempic with Novo, it's only 13%. So we think Zepbound is going to start to take away from Novo's share of the weight loss segment. Right now they're trading at 680 something, and we think 1125 possibly. So it's a huge upside. Pharmaceutical outside of the Mag 7, but and I hate to say this, I hate to ever say that we weren't right, but Netflix obviously still, I think that the long term they have a runway as well. But I'm just not a huge fan of Netflix the way they do their subscriber data loss. I didn't appreciate that, and also I don't like the way they're controlling their IP addresses, because it doesn't allow you to travel anymore. Really, it's a problem. It's a problem for me.
Yeah, let's talk about me. You know what? And people can commiserate. I'm sure many people
I'm sure
understand.
the travelers with Netflix can commiserate. Absolutely.
Exactly. Rebecca Walser, always great to have you on of Walser Wealth Management.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.